from the Common Lectionary, joining us with Christian worship around the world, I have chosen the focus from the book of Exodus. It tells that wonderful story of the manna that rained from heaven. You may note as I read this that in Aramaic, the people were looking at this strange stuff that showered from heaven, and the Aramaic word was manhu, which really meant, what is it? It's come to us now as the manna from heaven. On the 15th day of the second month after they had left Egypt, the whole company of Israel moved on from Elim to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. The whole company of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron there in the wilderness. The Israelites said, "Why didn't God let us die in comfort in Egypt, where we had lamb stew and all the bread we could eat? You've brought us out into this wilderness to starve us to death, the whole company of our people." Now God said to Moses, "I'm going to rain bread down from the skies for you. The people will go out and gather each day's ration. I'm going to test them to see if they'll live according to my teaching or not. On the sixth day, when they prepare what they have gathered, it will turn out to be twice as much as their daily ration, so that they will have some for the Sabbath." Moses instructed Aaron, "Tell the whole company of Israel, come near to God. He's heard your complaints." When Aaron gave out the instructions to the whole company of Israel, they turned to face the wilderness. And there it was, the glory of God, visible in the cloud. God spoke to Moses, "I've listened to the complaints of the Israelites. Now tell them, at dusk you will eat meat, and at dawn you will eat your fill of bread, and you'll realize that I am God, your God." That evening, quail flew in and covered the ground of the entire camp. And in the morning, there was a layer of dew all over the camp. When the layer of dew had lifted, there on the wilderness ground was a fine flaky something, fine as frost on the ground. The Israelites took one look at it and said to one another, "Manu," which means, what is it? They had no idea what it was. So Moses told them, "It's the bread God has given you to eat. And these are God's instructions. Gather enough for each person, about 2 quarts per person. Gather enough for everyone in your tent, a tent." And that was the manna, the bread from heaven. Today, we turn in our Oz series to a focus upon one of the most delightful, if spooky, characters, not only in the movie of 1939, but really, did you know Margaret Hamilton, in her portrayal of the Wicked Witch of the West, has been chosen by film experts as the greatest evil character in all of the films of American film history. She is the icon, the spooky. But today, it's my hope in our lesson that we will realize in all her power, in all her wickedness, as she called it herself, there was no reality in her. She was nothing at all. But we have to start somewhere. And I wanted to share with you a similar description, but using a different character. A character that our scriptures refer to as Satan. But our co-founder in Unity, Myrtle Fillmore, had a descriptive way of describing it. This comes from one of the many letters of Myrtle Fillmore, written to an individual but published in a book with the title of How to Let God Help You. It's probably my favorite over my many years. Myrtle writes, "When he of the cloven hoof appears, count it all joy. For these times of deviating from the right are the result of the Spirit of good doing a much-needed house-cleaning work. Once you become master of yourself, you will not stir up a cloud of negativeness when you discover some hidden corner in your mind that needs to be free. In the old days, you had to use a broom, but now you may use a vacuum cleaner and avoid stirring up large quantities of dust. So you are learning how to use your mental vacuum cleaner in your overcoming and making things easier and more pleasant for those around you. The unpleasant condition is just temporary, and it is dissolved by the truth that you have been thinking." She continues in this same article to discuss the hell or the hellish condition that we often create for ourselves when we refuse to move on from a circumstance, but rather dwell in the discomfort, the anxiety, the fear. Myrtle writes, "So just look yourself over and see what it is that makes it necessary for you to go through hell so often, and why each trip seems worse than the last. You can bring these undesirable states, these hell states, to an end right now. First of all, stop believing in them and the necessity for them. Second, make up your mind that you are not going to stand for them not a moment longer. Third, watch your thoughts and attitudes and acts to see that you do not invite undesirable states. Oh, you do not invite them intentionally, of course, but you do invite them in some way, else they would not come to you." Myrtle, of course, drew her phrase that she used so often, "Count it all joy," from that wonderful book in the New Testament called the Letter of James, a favorite name of mine, thought to be written by the James who was the brother of Jesus and later the first bishop or leader of the church in Jerusalem. He writes, "My brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of any kind, count it all joy, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete and lacking in nothing. If any of you is lacking in wisdom, ask God, who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given you. But ask in faith, never doubting. For the one who doubts is like the wave in the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For the doubter, being double-minded and unstable in every way, must not expect to receive anything from God." For Myrtle, this seemed to inspire her approach in Unity, what became our Unity teachings, to looking at obstacles along our path. rather than declaring them as something to be avoided or an individual that perhaps we should ignore. She invited us to see them as opportunities. Now, Dorothy Gale of Kansas had quite a potent opportunity in her encounter with the wicked witch of the West. Do you remember a few weeks ago when we started off with the story, and those of you that were here when we watched the 1939 film in this very room, we all know that iconic image as Dorothy falls from the cyclone. She's in the house from Kansas. It came with her, and it falls into the land of the Munchkins. And she doesn't even know what's happened. When she comes out of the house, the good witch Glenda is there. She says, "The Munchkins have called me because someone has dropped a house and killed the bad witch of the East, who was the sister to the bad wicked witch of the West." And we're given a little clue there. You see, traditionally the house, the symbol of the house, all the way back at least to Hebrew tradition, has been seen as what? A symbol of our consciousness, our present state of consciousness. Dorothy dropped that upon this witch who had enslaved the land of the Munchkins, making them work for her, the witch. So how did Dorothy's consciousness superimpose itself and squash the wicked witch of the East? Well, we'll jump ahead and maybe we can learn from her sister, the wicked witch of the West. From that killing of the witch's sister, the even more powerful wicked witch of the West declared that she would have her day with you, my pretty, and your little dog, too. She said, "I can't deal with you right here and now like I would prefer, but just try to stay out of my way." So she haunts and follows, threatens, tries to make Dorothy and her companions fearful, and even leads them into deceptive spells such as the field of poppies we talked about, whose sweet smell put Dorothy and the cowardly lion to sleep. Fortunately, the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, not being alive, they were not living beings, were not affected by the scent of the poppies. But all of these tricks. Now, I mentioned earlier that you might, if your interest is piqued and you'd like to learn more, we now have the full 14 books of The Wizard of Oz, all in one volume, available in our bookstore. Thanks to Helen Willis for finding this for us. You really might enjoy reading some of the other books that follow the characters through many adventures. But for Dorothy, according to author Baum, and it was told a little differently in the movie, and that's fine. They're fun to kind of play off of each other. But in the book, the Wicked Witch of the West finally captures Dorothy, and she enslaves her in her castle and makes her clean and wash. And one day Dorothy is scrubbing the great kitchen of the castle, and the witch comes in, and she manages to put a stick in the middle of the floor that Dorothy trips over, and in the process of tripping, one of her powerful, magical slippers. Remember, silver was the true color, not ruby. silver slippers, falls off, and the wicked witch grabs it. And Dorothy says, "You have no right to take my slipper." And the witch says, "Yes, I do, and I'm going to keep it. And I'll get the other one too." And this is the point. When Dorothy, emboldened and no longer willing to take, as Myrtle said, to stand for this any longer, she was scrubbing the floor and she grabs the bucket of water and casts it at the witch. The witch begins to melt, as Frank Baum describes it as brown sugar melts in water. Now we may ask ourselves, why could something so simple destroy someone apparently so powerful that she could do all of these magical threats, obstacles, and challenges along the way? Well, Baum gives us a hint. Earlier in the story, Toto, remember our good Cairn Terrier, Toto, aggravated or trying to protect Dorothy, bites the wicked witch in the leg. You know what happens? She doesn't bleed. She has no blood. She has no life. It's a first indication she's a phantom. Remember her sister that got squashed by the house? The movie shows it even more powerfully. Her little legs turn to dust and shrivel up. She wasn't a living being. She was a phantom of fear, a phantom creation of fear. Likewise, her powerful sister, the Wicked Witch of the West, was a creation of Dorothy's dread and fear of this unknown land. And water, as a purifying agent, had the ability to melt the witch into nothingness, no thingness. Now, Baum was telling in a very powerful image and in a very clever way what Charles and Myrtle Fillmore at the same time, circa 1900, were teaching as our unity principles of denial and affirmation. The other two witches of the North and South, the good witches, were affirmative powers. Throughout the story, they are always there to aid, to assist Dorothy. Glinda, actually the good witch of the North, in the very beginning kisses Dorothy on the forehead, and it leaves a seal at the place of her third eye that is a warning to anyone who dare harm Dorothy. It was a seal of blessing, an anointing like in our biblical scriptures. The good witches were always there to build up, to encourage, to assist, to help. In this case, Dorothy, the symbol of our soul. Now, the wicked witches were always there to what? Be a presence of fear, worry, anxiety, thoughts of impossibility, thoughts of what can't be done, thoughts of imprisonment. So how do we deal with it? Well, returning to Myrtle Fillmore, our good friend in our unity story, count it all joy, it is an opportunity. When we meet the obstacles, the challenges, the fears in life, the worries and anxieties, as Myrtle wrote to one individual, in unity we don't ask you to ignore the circumstances or to deny them. We ask you to deny that they are the eternal truth of you. She wrote to the woman, don't deny that you have the flu or a fever, but deny that that is the truth, that that is all there is to you. a big case of the flu. You're much more. I love this story and this image of the melting away of this evil character by water, symbolic of the process of denial. Because it's been my experience in unity, in my 30 years or so of working in unity, that many people hear us use a denial as an act of ignoring or avoiding or wishing away a circumstance or a person, when that is not how the Fillmores taught it. A denial was to deny that a negative condition was your permanent truth. So in Dorothy's case, she used water, but she was truly denying the wicked witch as an eternal reality. It was just a creation of human, what the Fillmores called race consciousness, or we may call now collective consciousness. She was a being created by human collective consciousness of all the bad, all the hatred, all the fear, all of the cruelty in the world. And it came together in this creation with her squeaky voice that is always threatening each one of us, very up close and very personal.
Just try to stay out of my way, Connie.
But the power is Connie's belief in me, that I have the power to threaten, limit her life, harm her. Now notice there are circumstances and challenges and obstacles in our path that we do have to deal with. Like Dorothy tripping in that castle kitchen, we might break a leg, and there will be time that we have to heal. You know my joke about it does no good to say, I broke my leg. No, I didn't. It's not really broken. You know the joke I like, the two unity ministers in hell, and one says, it's not hot, and the other one says, I'm not here. That's just ignoring circumstances. That is not the process of denial. The process of denial is the process to see through the circumstance, to overcome it to your true power. The power that Jesus Christ taught here on earth to people. To be of good cheer. There is a power within you, your divine nature, that can make you victorious over any circumstance. Now, I get passionate about this. I had a friend, when I spoke on this recently in Unity Temple, that called me preachy. But I get excited because this is our gift. Myrtle said it is not our unique invention, the Unity teachings, but we gave it a particular package. This is our gift to the world, folks. And we live in a world that's kind of Dorothy-like, kind of Oz-like. There's a lot of meanness and cruelty. There's killing and torture. And actually some of the worst that humanity is capable of is going on now. Not in the 12th century, now. And we are called to live more powerfully, to rise up to what we can be, what God has created us to be. And you may say, well, I don't live in a foreign land. I don't live in a difficult place like we're praying this month with people of El Salvador. I don't live in Oz. It doesn't matter. The difference you make, you're going to make right here in Sunrise, beach. Go out in that world and use your affirmative power. Dress up like Glinda, the good witch, if you like. Might cause a little attention, especially if I do it and go to Woods, but still, whatever you need to do inwardly in your imaging power, and then consistently sow seeds of good right here in our community. There are people right outside these doors that will challenge you, maybe in traffic. They'll bark creative words at you. Decide right here, right now, as Myrtle said, how you are going to approach that. Are you going to be the witch that affirms and builds up the other individual? Or are you going to be the threatening witch that wants to build up fear, doubt, anxiety, sense of limitation and imprisonment? It's your choice. Choose your witch nature wisely. And if you join us in the next couple of weeks, we'll be wrapping up the series as we explore what Jean Houston, the teacher and author, entitled her book, The Wizard of Us. The Wizard of Us. The power of transformation that is ours. You're going to use it one way or the other. You're already using it now. This morning when you arose from bed, you decided at some level of your being what your focus would be. Is it a focus that builds up or tears down? Yourself, others, your community, the world, your political party, or the one that you don't like? What is it? Choose. That's something we have taught in Unity from the very beginning. The creative power of thought we all possess because we are creators like our Creator. So choose wisely. Choose whether you want to be a good witch or a bad witch. That was the first question posed to Dorothy when she landed in Oz among the Munchkins, was when Glinda came and got very close and in her face, are you a good witch or a bad witch? Decide. Decide what you will create in your own inner life, in your community, and in your world. So I invite you to take a moment as we turn within and we're simply going to make some powerful statements, denials and affirmations, if you will, that come from this place that Jesus Christ described as this power to overcome. So I invite you to turn your attention within and just become aware of your breath for a moment. Take a deep breath if you choose, or even let out a sigh if you choose, just so we can enjoy this resting. Here is a beautiful image that you may hold in your mind's eye, written by a leading teacher in theosophy who inspired the work of Frank Baum and who was studied by Charles Fillmore, our co-founder in Unity, former priest of the Church of England. Charles Ledbetter wrote this simple verse, hour after hour, like an opening flower, shall truth after truth expand. For the sun may pale and the stars may fail, but the law of the good shall stand. So I invite you to call to mind anything that seems to be blocking your path to the Emerald City, blocking your yellow brick road, blocking you from attaining what Myrtle Fillmore called satisfaction. That is a fulfilled life, a life of purpose, of comfort, a life of faith, a life of goodwill. Consider that obstacle and realize the God that brought you into being and has promised to sustain you always would not place an obstacle in your path that would prevent your coming home to God. An early truth teacher taught, whatever God has created, God will sustain. So your trip down your own unique yellow brick road toward your city of highest hope, which is truly your consciousness of satisfaction, of peace, of joy, is a path that has already been assured, guaranteed. So you can begin to see this obstacle as something that is simply for you to overcome, to call forth your strength, to enhance your skills of wisdom, of compassion, of courage and action. You may choose a strong affirmation, like the one written by the amazing minister Dr. Robert Schuller. When I face a mountain, I will climb over it, or go around it, or tunnel beneath it. There is always a way. So now, in a true sense, deny the permanency of that obstacle. And affirm your power as God's perfect creation. Your victory and your success is assured. Like Dorothy, it may take many steps on the road, but in her perseverance and with the help of her friends, she came to the journey's end, and she found her way home. Home again is that state of consciousness that knows peace and fulfillment. Father, Mother God, we give thanks for the wisdom in which you have created your human family. And Christ, we give thanks that you shepherd us along the way. Each step, each day, our power and our friend. For this inner realization